You live in a gated community.
It's called a gated community.
In the gay community.
I just want us to have an open conversation, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, anybody. I want this to be a safe space for everyone.
Racism is alive and well in the gay community.
The gay community.
The gated community.
Gay community, as us as a trans community.
Who is having that conversation?
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Gated Community Podcast. We're going to pick up from where we left off last week with our featured guest, Dominick. This is the part 2 you've been waiting for. But before we get into it, I have a couple of mentions. Listen, the Gated Community Podcast is now streaming new episodes weekly on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. A few other streaming platforms like Amazon Music are in the works. In the interim, tune into Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, subscribe and leave a review because I'd love to know your thoughts about my thoughts. And did you know that if you share, it'll come back to you? Think about that the next time you consider sharing the links to the episodes. All right, I ain't gonna hold y'all. Let's get into it. And like my stance was always, that's the same thing that they do to us. You know, white people do to black people. You can't like hate an entire race based on 1, 2, or a handful of experiences, bad experiences that you've had with a white person. Like it just doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. I agree.
But I do think that living in LA, I mean, do we want to talk about WeHo?
Come on, let's talk about it because I mean we need to talk about it because that's exactly where I was headed. Now, I do feel like that. I do kind of feel like what some of my friends feel like living here, which I will say that. And I'm going to be very vocal about that on my podcast. Yeah.
Because I do not appreciate the divisiveness, the way that, first of all, black people, like we don't have spaces.
We don't have a space out here. We do not have a space out here. At all. No more. It was here. No, but we did have spaces in the past. Like I remember when I used to visit LA, like back in 2011, 2012, there were a couple spaces. And then some people who I know who are from here also used to talk about how there were a couple spaces. But right now, as far as socially, there's no space for us.
But was it like a space that occurred every day or did they just have like one night a week? I mean, because that kind of makes a difference.
Exactly. I feel you. So the catch was, I think, just weekends. I know there was no every day of the week. There was no.
Why? They got it. Why can't we have it? I mean, what are we doing that's wrong? What's so bad about giving us? But then again, that kind of plays back into that segregation. You know what I mean? Like if we want to have like black spaces, I talk about how I want things to be integrated, but at the same time, it's like I'm complaining about how we don't have black spaces in LA, in Hollywood. And so it's like, which one do you want? Do you want the integration? The integration piece comes in for me because I don't feel welcome in the white spaces. The only space that we have here, which happens to be white spaces.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't feel welcome. I don't feel like I've had bartenders like look me over in line and help the guy that's next to me that's not black, you know, to serve the guy that's next to me. Like, so stuff like that. It's just like little shit. I just be like, I can't.
Yeah, it's just like microaggressions, and I think like I know like when I go out to WeHo, usually the crew that I go with or the people that I go with are usually like we're mostly black or Latino. So I always notice when we go out there are looks. There are always like there really aren't any other groups out there who kind of look like us. So I do feel like it's an interesting dynamic because I feel like there are a lot of eyes on us. And I never forget I was at I think it was Bar 9. I think now it's called High Tops. And I was in there with 2 of my other friends and we were just in there kikiing, drinking, having a good time. And so we ended up sitting at this table and it was a really crowded bar. We ended up sitting at this table and then I swear to God, like we're kikiing, laughing, you know how we do. And after like 5 minutes, I looked around and there was no one else like around us. Like everyone had moved. And that had moved. And I don't know, for me, I was just like, I can't help but take this like personal. I mean, at this crowded bar, now all of a sudden it's like 3 tables. It's like a 3-table radius around us where no one is even in the vicinity. I was just like, this feels racist. The end.
This feels racist. For you to use.
This feels racist.
But it is. It's racism.
So do you think racism exists in
everywhere?
Everywhere, yes. But do you think it's more pronounced in the gay community? Because actually, I'm gonna just say it. I feel as though because we are gay and being gay is quote unquote a minority, I feel like people who are not already a minority use that as a crutch to propagate racist, whatever, like other divisive tools. You know what I'm saying? So like for basically what I'm saying is like, I feel like I'm just going to say white gays at this point because that's just the group that I've got. I feel like white gays tend to use the fact that they are gay as an excuse to also be racist.
I think that for white gays, their racism is an extension of their privilege. And I think that if you took their privilege away, then they would probably be like a bit more empathetic to people who they tend to judge or believe that they're better than. And that kind of happens a lot, especially like I feel like most of the white gays here walk around with entitlement or privilege, which is why it's so easy for them to maneuver through WeHo because WeHo caters to white gays. I mean, that's just what it is.
Well, isn't that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue your thought, and then I have something to say.
Oh no, go ahead.
So I think that's something that's important because I think that like that informs and I want to ask you about interracial dating in a minute, but I think that is something that informs our relationships because like I remember back when the HRC I remember back when marriage equality was like, everyone was fighting for that. And that was something that was on the docket and that was waiting to be passed and into law that gay marriage was legal nationwide. And I feel like the literature and all of the political propaganda always showed the gay community as white gays. Like that was the gay community. I really felt like minorities were not included in the messaging. And now it was great that marriage equality got passed because it was something that I thought that was important to white gays. But once that got passed, it kind of just seemed like that was kind of the end of any type of like gay agenda. Yeah, it was just kind of like, okay, we got what we got. Okay, so then gays like shut the hell up. Like y'all are good. Like what are you complaining about? Like we got what we needed. But that was more so like, okay, as a gay person, as a white gay person, yes. But then as somebody who is not white, there are way more inequalities that we need to also address.
Right.
And I felt like, I don't know. And I mean, I was in DC at the time and DC is a very political city. And I felt like all the political messaging I saw was white gay men with each other. And I was just kind of like, I support the cause because I obviously believe in marriage. But like, I was like, I don't see myself out here. Speaking of marriage and monogamy, kind of tab that in your mind. But I think Let me write that down.
What you just said is kind of like the memes that were going around on July 1st about these different corporations who support.
Oh, you're talking about the Pride Month?
Yeah, who support like Pride Month. And then on July 1st, like they're like ripping down everything that has to do with like rainbows, whatever else. And that just
Get rid of the glitter. Get rid of the glitter.
Take all that gay shit. Get out of here with all that gay shit.
Get that gay shit out of here.
Well, I think that it kind of speaks to how corporations now, it's like a double-edged sword. Like it's I'm glad that they are like,
it's cool to be gay.
Almost like in a way singling us out, to support us. But at the same time, it's all about capitalism. Because I guess you can have that without capitalism, but you can't. It's almost like we can't support you if we can't make money off of you. So like we're gonna make a pair of Nikes that got a rainbow flag on it. Like we gonna make like, so Nike is now capitalizing off of homosexuality when it should just be, we don't care to see a rainbow stripe on a pair of Nikes. We want to see areas and faces inside.
How about transgender? How about just transgender rights? Like, can we get that?
I want to see people who work for Nike that are transgender,
right?
That are homosexual. I want to see gays in those spaces. I really don't care about you painting a pair of Nikes in the color scheme of a rainbow. Right. That means nothing to me because that you can sell, it becomes a commodity, and then you make money off of it. But if it's something like, if I see something like, oh, Nike just hired, 10 gays and 10 transgenders, and this is our way of contributing to Pride, okay, I can get behind that. Yeah. But all that other shit, like
and then to be quite fucking honest, I'm not buying a pair of rainbow sneakers. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
I mean,
it's too many colors.
Like, I'm not buying a rainbow t-shirt from Target. It's
too many colors. Right. It's too many colors. It's too, like,
I don't have anything to wear with that.
Right. If you really want to support gays, give me a jock strap. Make a harness for me. Give me a crop top.
and make them buy one, get two free. Okay, let us see that if you want to make a coin off of us.
Yeah, I think that is. I agree. I mean, it's just so interesting, like being black.
Gay.
Yeah, being gay. But then I think we also have to recognize that, at least for me, like I can't sit here I cannot in good faith say that my blackness, I also don't see things through the lens of my blackness as well. And it affects kind of how I think about things and how I view things. That's my outlook on life. Like being black has always been a lens that I look through. And I mean,
we're black first.
Right.
You can maneuver through life trying to be DL, trying to be like in the closet, and people might not be able to see that, but you always gonna be able to see the skin tone. So be black first, and then be gay, and then kind of like going back to what you said earlier about having those strikes against you.
So how do you feel? Okay, so then how do you feel about interracial dating? And how do you feel about, like, we talked about how the gays can be racist. How do you feel about interracial dating?
I think that, like, I'm open to dating any race.
Nice.
I would love to have the opportunity to date anyone outside of someone who does not identify as black. But I do love black guys, like, obviously.
Right.
But I think that going back to what we were saying earlier about the tone of the community in WeHo and how they kind of ostracize us, they kind of saturate us with their microaggressions, but we're good enough to hit up on Grindr and on Jack'd and all these other apps like at 2 a.m. But it's only to see it's to fulfill a fetish. You know what I mean?
Bitch. Okay. And so I am also on Grindr. I'm on it off. Say what?
I can't. If it's not Hinge, I'm not on it. I just can't do. Because they're so toxic.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. And that's what I was going to say. And that's exactly where I was going with that. I feel like my experience in LA on Grindr has been exactly that. Has been, especially in terms of interracial, has been people looking for big black cocks. BBCs like that. That's the
nature of the beast. It's looking for a BBC,
right? And I think that I think is indicative of the fetishization and over sexualization, I think, of black people and especially black gays. Like they just expect you to come to the table with like this aggression and this like sexual virility that is just it's there.
Right.
But there's other things there as well. Like that is not the only thing.
Yeah. I mean, that aside, I do, like, I wouldn't, like, my last date from Hinge was a white guy. He was an engineer. He was just like a regular white guy. I think for me, it becomes uncomfortable, like a regular boy next door white guy. I think for me, it becomes slightly uncomfortable when they try to adapt like this urban vernacular or like this urban, like, let me try and identify as much as I can with you being black without letting you know that I'm trying to identify with you being black. So they change, like what
up? Who dis? Who dis? That's my favorite. Be like, what?
Like, what up? Instead of like, what's up is what up?
Yeah.
What up, bro? Like, whatever.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
It's the code switching.
Yes.
It's the code switching for me. And that part, I'm not, because it's almost like, I'm thinking like, is this really you?
Right.
Or are you just thinking like this because I'm black? You know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, it also kind of like attracts me to them, which is something that I'm kind of battling with, because it's like, it's attractive for me to hear any guy speak in a certain tone. But like when it's a white guy, it's attractive, but it's also weird and like, don't talk like that, because I don't know if we like speak like this on the regular or not, but outside of that, I mean, I know we've had conversations before about, we're not going to say the type of race that you prefer, but the guys that you've dated in the past, there was like a cultural barrier
Right. And I think for me that was a learning process. Thank you, therapy. Thank you for my therapist. But that was a learning process for me where I really fed into the fetishization of me. I was just like, I enjoy.
Oh, so it was a fetish for you today.
I think now that I've had some time to sit with it and think about it, and COVID has afforded us this time to really sit and think and mature. Like, I do think part of me also enjoyed that, because I enjoyed like I just enjoyed it. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just something that it was just kind of like, it was something that I enjoyed having around. It wasn't healthy. It obviously wasn't healthy. And this is, I'm talking now about like kind of being fetishized by other races. It obviously wasn't healthy, but it was something that I cannot sit here and say that I didn't enjoy at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I that's probably the only race that I would not try and date. And it's no shade towards them. I'm just not really interested in those.
Yeah, and being fetishized. I mean, no one. I mean, I think that is something that is. I think it is something that needs to be talked about, because I do think there are a sector of people out there who, unfortunately, did not grow up in or don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, and don't know what a healthy gay relationship looks like. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that is important, because in the media, like, you know, I looked at TV a lot, I played a lot of video games, and I watched a lot of porn. That's what I did growing up. Like that's what it was. So, I mean, TV shows, like, what did I have growing up where they showed gay relationships? Will and Grace. Will and Grace is where they, and I mean, both of them were straight at the time, and I put that in quotations. And then, yeah, so both of them were straight. So they were just kind of playing gay roles on TV. And at the time, it was something I think that was important, because Will and Grace was new.
I mean, they had to ease it into like civilized Noah's Ark and be like, bitch, this is what, you know what I mean?
And even like Noah's Ark, like I had Queer as Folk. Queer as Folk for me was what kind of taught me about gay, period.
I didn't watch either, but what I did watch was DL Chronicles.
Okay, the web series, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about because I didn't watch the DL Chronicles. So tell me kind of how that maybe influenced your relationships.
Well, before I get into that, like going back to what you just said, we didn't have like that representation on television, like in media, but also like our peers. I don't really, and maybe that's because we all really didn't know. Like,
no one knew. No one knew what to do. We were all kind of just feeling our way through.
And I think that kind of stigmatized us from like a heterosexual standpoint for them to believe that all we like to do is have sex. Because like, I feel like a big part of like us trying to be together was like the foundation was sexual.
Sex.
You know what I mean? And then we tried to get to know like the person as a person. And I hear a lot of people say that, you know, well, there are too many options and, you know, everybody cheats and you're going to get cheated on regard. I don't believe in any of that bullshit, like at all. Yeah. And I think that, you know, seeing gay successful relationships is really important. And I think over time, like if you don't see that and you don't have that, and you
don't believe it.
Right. People tend to believe, like I have friends who feel like, you know, maybe two guys aren't supposed to be together.
Right.
Like, why do you feel like that?
No,
everybody's gonna cheat. Why are you settling for that bull? Like how much more esteem do you need that you lack in yourself to believe that you shouldn't settle for that bullshit? I don't care about side chick culture, sadhu culture. Like it's just toxic.
Yeah.
They are toxic beliefs. And
I think we also have to pay homage to the fact that we are traditionalists. I mean, we did grow up in a very traditional, like the South is very, very about like, you know, rules, order, tradition, you know, and we grew up in a heteronormative, we grew up in a very heteronormative culture where it's like man, woman, you stay together, this is that and the other. So I think that does bleed over also into the fact that we just didn't have any gay examples. And so it's funny because we do have conversations about it a lot, about open relationships and all that stuff. And I always oscillate because I'm always like, because I did grow up very traditionalist, but then I also know, you know, I enjoy sex. So like I know.
Because you said something to me last weekend about that. And I'm just like, okay, here we go.
It's different every week because I'm just trying to navigate like what it's going to look like for me, because part of it is like, okay, I grew up one way. Am I just honoring how I grew up, or am I honoring actually how I truly am? But I mean, that's
less about honoring how you grew up and more about honoring your feelings. Like if your feelings, if how you grew up validates your feelings about relationships, then that would make sense.
Right.
But I would like pay homage to the way that I was brought up and try to develop a relationship just based on, you know, those doctrines. Like I would try if it's something that you actually feel like you could do.
Yeah.
And in spite of, you know, how you grew up, then, you know, I would just go for it. Yeah. But I also think that, you know, people tend to want to have open relationships, and I have my reasons for this, but I think that one of those reasons is because, you know, it's a self-esteem issue. Like it's easier for me to be, it's easier for three of us to be in this game versus two, because now there's less pressure on him leaving me, or there's less pressure on not liking me because he has another option. And when he's ready for me, you know, he can come to me. But I think, and that's one of them. And then two, I think it speaks to how many single people we have roaming the streets that really want successful relationships.
So I think, right. And I think that brings me back to kind of like, again, what we were talking about. That's like brings everything back full circle, because all my friends are single. Like, I mean, I have one married couple, they're married. But everyone else who is in like my close inner circle or people, my Black Judies, it's also the name of the web series. But my Black Judies are all single and all want successful relationships. But I do think that, you know, we are all figuring out what that's going to look like for us, because again, we did not have that representation growing up, and we didn't really get I think for me, like because I didn't have the representation, I didn't really get the practice.
Yeah, but it's like, when did it become a thing to ask someone? Like when you are getting to know someone, it's like, you know, what kind of things do you like? What do you like to do? Where do you like to go? Like what are your interests? Mm. But I think inside of that, there becomes like, I don't know when this started, but it becomes a question of, are you open?
Yeah, I mean that's a question you have to have the conversation now.
But when did that even become a thing? Really? And what's the point of being in a relationship if you're going to be open? Listen, I'm very passionate about this subject because this shit makes no sense to me. My friend he tried to explain to me that, no, you know, I just think.
Is your friend in an open relationship?
No, but he knows someone who is, and who was. And first of all, do they ever work? What's the success rate of open relationship?
That's what I was about to, that was the next question. I was like, is it working or is it not working?
Right. Like, let's talk about it. But he feels like, you know, he can understand, like it's something that he said that he would never do, but he understands like why and how people would do it, because some people don't feel like they are only supposed to be with one person. Mm-hmm. I think that's a bullshit excuse of saying, bitch, I want to do me and I'm selfish and I want to have it all to myself.
Period.
Without the temptation of being like, if I'm open, I can go out and do what I want to do. Bitch, you're not open, girl. You're lacking discipline.
Yeah. I mean, and I want it, but then it makes me though, and I'm going to play devil's advocate. Like, it makes me wonder, you know, what is the success rate? Because now we're talking about monogamy versus polygamy. So like, what is the success rate of gay monogamous relationships? Like, do you have any friends that are in gay monogamous relationships right now?
Well, I have friends that are in relationships, has been cheated on.
Again, okay, so I'll repeat. Do you have any friends?
I mean, you might as well call them polygamous because the nigga always cheating.
Yeah,
but that's not. I'm not judging anybody, but I don't know.
But that brings me back to the focus of the web series that I'm producing, and that you're also participating in. Thank you so much. But like the fact that we just don't have examples of what it looks like, and I think had we had those examples growing up, and had we had kind of, and that's why representation matters. And so had we had that representation, I think we may be in a different scenario.
I mean, I think it. When we talk about polygamy with straight people, it's always supported by religion. Like, it's always a theme of religion. Like when you have, I forgot his name, the basically anybody in Utah who is
Mormons. Yeah, Mormons. Yeah.
It was one in particular. He had like 13 wives and like 150 children and grandchildren. It was a mess. But I don't really hear about. Besides, I think Akon said once, like, you know, he believes in polygamy or whatever. But I don't know of anyone. I don't know anyone who knows of anyone who has been in relationships that are polygamous and that are straight. But that is straight. But when it comes, because they just cheat, like straight people, they just cheat and then they go back to their girl or they guy and be like, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me. It was whatever. Then when you have gays, it's like, oh, it's okay to be open. Like, that's just something that we do because, well, why is it so, not to compare apples to oranges, but why is it so accepted with gays and it's just not, it's so ostracized with straight people?
Well, I think
is it because gays don't really have like religious beliefs?
Okay, gays are sacrilegious. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that, again, we're just kind of making up the rules as we go, and I think it also plays into, like, I think one of them, and this is of course playing devil's advocate, one of the other things is, like, if you're going to cheat and if that's something that is likely going to happen, how do we mitigate this? Like, I know, okay, I'll say this. I know one couple who was in an open relationship and they've been together for 16 years. So they started off as monogamous, which is what I would want to do as well. And then after a decade, then they decided to open the relationship up. So, and of course, with rules, of course. Say what?
I wonder if it's because some people say, to spice things up, to eliminate like the monotony, the boredom, we want to bring in a third party, whatever the case. Mm-hmm. But when I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm in love with someone and I actually love them as a person, I only have eyes for that person. Yeah. I don't really, there's nothing else that I want. There's nothing else that I'm seeking outside of that person. If we have challenges, then, we talk through it, we work through it. If it doesn't work out, we break up. That's just who I am as a person. There's nothing that excites me about bringing someone else into our bed to make things better, because I'm a very jealous person. Bitch, you're not coming into my bedroom with my man.
Yeah,
that's period.
I am. Yeah. Okay. Look, if I were to ever we already talked about this. If I were to ever be in an open relationship, ain't no threesomes. Like, you do.
It's like, that's it.
I don't want to see it. I ain't trying, because I'll fight.
And if that's something that the guy that I'm dating wants, then we're not meant for each other. Like, if we're just gonna have to just cut the strings, because that's not something that I'm interested in. And from the moment that you express to me that that's something that you're interested in, or that's something that you want, I'm going to feel it's going to trigger my insecurities, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm not enough for him. And, so like he said, it's just something that he wanted, but it's not like a deal breaker for him so then that will become something. I'm not even getting into all that, because this is not about me. But I think
it's an important conversation to have, because I think I'm going to drill it down to gay Black men, we need experience. I would not rules, but we need to figure this stuff out. We need to figure this out, because I look around us and, we all desire these relationships. We all desire companionship. We all desire those things, but none of us seem to, and especially at a certain education level, because I feel like all my friends are at a very similar education level as well. And also salary level, coins. And coin. All of us are coin down, and
save me for my pain.
Coin down, and and I just don't. But we're not in. I mean, we want these relationships, but none of us are in relationships. None of us.
I think that if more gays open their mind to being in relationships and to dating someone, then there would be the success rate of gay relationships would increase, even if it's by 1% to 2%. But what does that even?
But what does that even? What does that mean? You just said if more gays were open to dating someone, what does that?
So I was going to explain. What I mean by that is, I think that gays have this idea of what they want their boyfriend, their significant other, or whoever, their companion to look like. Mm-hmm. They have to check all these boxes. Mm-hmm. And I think that more often than not, the person, there could be someone in their friend circle, there could be someone, their friend that they're talking to, I want this kind of guy, he has to have this, that, and the third. Mm-hmm. Checks 90% of those boxes, but they're not looking at them in a romantic way, because it's their friend, or because they don't really have something that they really want, or because their physique is not what they look for in a guy, or something's wrong with their teeth. It's just little things that can steer people away from. But your man could be sitting in your face, but you I don't see him like that because of X, Y, and Z. But
And
you think that your man, when you find your man, do you think that he's not gonna have flaws just like your friend that's sitting in front of you with the X, Y, and Z? Like that part to me is like just widening your mind and your thought process to maybe like just try things out.
And it's interesting you say that because you mentioned when you said you're being hypothetical, of course, but when you just mentioned all those deal breakers of like, oh, he looks a certain way, his teeth are a certain way, those were all, I think that we have to talk about the fact that men are physical and visual creatures. So
or you could just say superficial.
Okay, so you say superficial, I say visual. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Semantics, but still,
it is. Exactly. And I think we have some maturing to do and again, I think this leads itself back to representation is think about where did you get your information about gay relationships? Like, where did you get your rule book? How did you figure it out? Because I know how I did. And like, I want to hear, actually, let me just say mine first because I want to get it out. And then you can say yours.
Wait, because I was just going to say, like, based on what you just said, like my last reference point would be when I said superficial, I think that people like gays tend to look for things that they're attracted to on their exterior, on people's exterior, which is natural. And I understand that. But if you get a chance to know people for who they are versus what they have or what they look like, then that would also increase the rate of relationships, the successful rate. Like it doesn't, I don't know, like that's just how I feel. But anyway.
And I think that's a very mature thought process. And I commend you for, that's beautiful. I mean, honestly, like what you just said is beautiful. And I feel like I haven't encountered many men, white or black, who think that way. So I think that's gorgeous. I really do. But I'll say that, like, I think that, again, with representation and the fact that we didn't really have, I've never seen that. Like what you just explained.
I've experienced it. Like I've been.
So you've experienced, because exactly.
To be like, I'm not interested. Like it was a guy that I was seeing in Atlanta and he was like interested in me and I was like, no, I'm good. Like he has acne. Like I'm good. And
he has acne.
We started hanging out, becoming friends. Like we became friends. And then like the more I started to get to know, like he was still like kind of coming onto me like during this period, but it was subtle. Mm-hmm. And the more I got to know him and I opened up to like experiencing like and learning who he was as a person, like I really felt hard for him like after several months. And I'm like, oh, this is new because I've never liked someone, like I've never grown to like someone that I didn't like because of whatever superficial qualities that I felt like they had or were lacking. So I've experienced that.
Right. And I think that's where, so that's the dynamic that I'm talking about. So like you came to this a very mature, very open thought process from experience. There are people out there who have never had that experience, who media, art, all that stuff allows us to have those experiences from the comfort of our own home. And so I think if we were to see something like that on TV or something where we at least just saw like what you just described, somebody who maybe wasn't physically attracted to one person because of X, Y, and Z, or had all these barriers up and then they broke them down and then there was a beautiful relationship and this is that and the other, I think it would be, and also I'm going to take it back to us being gay and black. If they were both black, I think that'd be amazing. You know what I'm saying? That'd be something that'd be great. But like,
I will say, in order to get him, this is going to sound like superficial as fuck, but in order to get him to a place to where I was like I won't even say that. I will say this. Okay. Because he actually did have like bad acne and I helped him clear that up. So like I helped him to better himself, which in turn helped me to like him more. Okay. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I accepted him for his flaws, but I also helped him to correct those flaws.
Correct. Yeah. Like, I mean, it was kind of a situation where it sounds like it wasn't a deal breaker. It was something that was fixed.
Oh, I mean, and it took my friend, like he was really talking me into, you should give him a chance. You shouldn't be so shallow, this, that, and the third. And I was like, fine, whatever. Like, what else am I doing? And I did.
Oh, girl, whatever. I'm bored. Let's do it.
And then it came back to bite me in the ass because of the way that it ended. I guess.
I mean, yeah. let's talk about you and the fact that how you came to be, because I'm sure we all know how it can be when you give someone a chance and then they kind of like think it's something else and they take it for granted and they try you. Is that what happened?
No, he did.
Oh.
He was actually like a really, really good person, but I don't know if the interest from his part began to diminish, but I just started, it was almost like a ghosting thing. Like I started to hear and see less and less from him. And then he moved.
Okay.
And I didn't even know he moved until I ran into his best friend at the club. And I'm like, you know, how's so? I don't even remember his name. But I was like, how's so-and-so? He was like, oh, he's
Jamal.
good. Okay, Jamal.
How's Jamal?
And like it really hurt me when we ended things because I'm like, I guess that was like my first time ever being ghosted. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think he did it to be malicious, but I do think that, you know, he could have handled it like a little bit better. He could have been like more communicative.
Yeah, I feel that. No, ghosting sucks ass. Yeah, ghosting's actually what sent me to therapy. I got ghosted and just completely like lost it. So that's what
really?
That's what sent me to therapy. Well, it wasn't. It was more so. It was ghosting and then cheating. It was like both happened to me, and I was just like, "This is crazy."
From the same person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was before I met you.
Because did you catch a charge? We need a charge to be
okay.
Did you catch a charge?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, just long story short, I was dating this guy. He had a boyfriend the whole time. I didn't know. I was doing a lot of things for him. I was just blinded by a lot of things, and I just didn't ask a lot of questions. And like,
was this in LA?
This is in LA. This is my first year in LA. It was nuts. It was nuts.
Wow. I don't even speak to people who I was friends with when I first moved to LA.
Yeah. That's a whole nother topic for another day as well.
Yeah.
But what I was going to mention was I feel like we, again, like as far as relationships are concerned, you know, for me personally, the only relationships I saw, to be honest, was porn. That was like, I'm gonna be honest. That
your parents?
No, my parents had a horrible relationship. I learned what I did not want from my parents.
You asked like what, like how did I know to be in a gay relationship?
Well, gay. I'm talking about what were your influences for gay relationships? Because I never saw gay. I never saw gay. The only time I saw gay was in porn, and that was the only way I saw like how gay people interacted. And I thought that's how you did it.
When I was in high school, I used to work at Burger King, and guys used to come to the drive-thru and hit on me.
Yeah.
And so I would take the numbers, and I was just like fooling around with them. But when it came to relationships, I just took my mom and my stepdad and
emulated that.
Applied that to, you know, my life. And
so what would it have been though if what do you think it would have been if you had a TV like a Noah's Ark? Like you watched Noah's Ark, right?
Mm-hmm. I never really liked that show.
So let's talk about that. I didn't watch it either. That was like
the show for all the black gays.
Yeah, that was the black. But for me, that it was two things going on. One, I was in the closet when it first came out, so it was a little bit triggering. I didn't really want to, I was like, oh, I don't want to be seen watching this. They go, no. And then the other thing was when I did get around to watching a few episodes at the time when it was new, I just didn't identify with any of them. I was just like, I'm not any of these boys.
I didn't either. I think I saw like maybe one or two episodes. I actually went to see the movie.
The reboot or whatever, the 20-year reunion or whatever.
I have no idea. I just remember it was a Noah's Ark movie, and we went to the gay theater in Atlanta to see it. It was like a theater that kind of catered to gay creatives and like gay films and stuff like that. But I didn't understand the movie because I never watched the series. I could never get into it. Like it just wasn't. I think it was.
But why? Honestly, why? Yeah, why?
I just feel like it was something that I was better than. Like this isn't me. I can't identify with this because I'm better than these girls.
Well, I mean that's. Sorry.
There was, I think there was a couple on the show that everybody just kind of talked about. Obviously, super attractive.
It was the Latino guy and then the mixed dude, right? It was I think it's.
I thought it was Noah and some boy.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was Noah and some
like a Latino guy, right? He wasn't. He wasn't black, right? No. Wade. Was it Wade and Noah?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Like their relationship didn't inspire me.
Wasn't he DL? Wasn't he DL at the time, or was he just masculine?
He was masculine. I don't know if he was DL or not. He could have been. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it was. I just kind of felt like I couldn't relate.
Yeah, I couldn't relate either. I just like I'm not like this. The lifestyle lifestyle, the way that they're living, I was just like, this just not, it's just not me. And I think it may have spoke to the tone of the show at the time too. I don't know if it was like no fault of anyone who the creator or the actual storyline or the actors, but I do think that it was just kind of just wasn't good. It just wasn't well done.
Also for me, it was very boring.
Yeah, it wasn't well done. And everything was so dramatic. It was very, very dramatic from what I remember.
The only one that stands out to me was like the real feminine one, the dark skinned one who was eating that's a meme of him eating ribs.
Eating the ribs.
The only one that sticks out to me, and my friend and Noah, because I have a friend that looks like him, that resembled him.
No, it's
but
fine.
I don't.
Fine.
I couldn't get into that.
How about this? Give me one opportunity and two really great things that you think it is about being Black and gay.
One opportunity about.
I said that about being. Basically, I said opportunity instead of con. I didn't want to say pro con. I said opportunity and strength.
Opportunity. I have the space to create my own content, bringing awareness. So I just kind of created my own space to have the autonomy to basically get that out there. Two great things about being Black and gay. One is I'm Black, and two is I'm gay.
Period. Okay.
Put a period on that.
It's called a gated community.
I'm in a gated community. All the gays are
You
alive.
live in a gated community.
African people are not pro-homosexual.
Who is having that conversation?